When I first started soloing over chord changes, I had a terrible time of it. I started learning this skill and then stopped and started relearning it again so many times. I would basically go through the same circle without realizing it. I would put on a 4-chord loop, try to solo over it while keeping track of the changes, keeping track of where the downbeat was, creating some sort of an interesting melody, trying to land on one of the notes that sounded good on each chord. It was too much for me to deal with. I would get frustrated. I never made the conscious decision to quit trying to learn it, but each time I would subconsciously get so frustrated that my mind would trick me into getting excited about something else, and I would then go and start working on this other project and forget about it. A few months later, I would come back, try to learn how to solo over chord changes again, and this cycle went on for years. Now, if this sounds familiar to you, I have some things you should try. The first thing to do is to just solo over one chord. And I know it sounds simple and stupid and kind of ridiculous. How am I supposed to learn how to solo over chord changes if there aren't any changes? But just bear with me for a moment. In order to solo well over chord changes, we have to know the relationship of each note to that chord. Luckily, there's only 12 notes in Western music and only 7 of them are diatonic or in the scale, so it's not that complicated, but it does take some time. Each of these 12 notes, which are generally known like this as the different scale degrees, each one of them has their own flavor or their own color in relation to the root chord. These 12 primary colors are the colors that musicians use to paint pictures in sound. These colors then get combined and put together, sometimes at the same time, sometimes in sequence, creating a series of tension and resolution, which creates an experience of more complex colors, more complex flavors in the music. Now, in order to paint these more complex and more beautiful pictures, we have to get familiar with these 12 primary colors. First of all, starting with the 7 diatonic ones. The way to do this is to put on a loop of just one chord. I created a backing track. I'll put a link to it. I'll also make a video for it that you guys can play along with. Start with just one chord and play the scale of that chord. This loop is a C major chord, and I will be playing a C major scale over that chord. Playing it nice and slowly, you can hear the different flavor that each note makes in relationship to the root chord. After this, you want to start playing around with the scale patterns, landing on target notes. So we'll start with the 1. Each time the downbeat comes around, try to just noodle around and land on the tonic as the downbeat. This is what it sounds like if we do it with the 5. Mess around with doing each of these, we begin to get familiar with them. Playing them on the downbeat when the chord hits really starts to give us a sense of the flavor. After doing this exercise for a few minutes, I can almost taste the essence of this particular note. Next, it's time to add in the 2 most common blues notes, or non-diatonic notes that players usually use to add a bit more spice to the sound. These are the flat 3 and the flat 7. Hitting the flat 7 on each downbeat sounds like this. Once we get comfortable using all of these notes, the last step is to throw in the rest of the notes in the scale. While these other non-diatonic chromatic notes will generally not be used as landing tones, they are often used as passing tones, briefly getting passed over to give a sense of tension and release, or to give a sense of chromatic movement. I think the best way to start doing this is to just put a loop and play a full chromatic scale over it, getting used to each of the tones and their relationship to the root. I'm going to make another video soon about how to take this skill and start applying it to playing over chord progressions with multiple chords in them. If you guys want to see that video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like so that the algorithm knows to recommend that video to you when it comes out.